She fell from the sky, not in a ship, not in a pod, but as if hurled by the universe itself. A human woman, scarred, limping, not armored but wearing what remained of centuries-old exosuit, crashed onto the desolate surface of Moon 9G, deep in the frontier systems of the Galactic Empire. Surveillance drones caught her entry. No thrusters, no signal, just a human figure breaching the atmosphere, trailing flame, and slamming into rock hard enough to shatter bone. Yet she stood. The first recon squad arrived within 30 minutes. They expected wreckage. They found her walking, naked feet on molten stone. The impact crater glowed behind her. Her movements were unnatural, jerky, twitching. Her spine seemed to reset itself with small, dry pops. Her left arm hung loose, broken in 2 places. She used it anyway. Sergeant Kell approached first, his rifle held loose. "Identify yourself." She said nothing. He took a step closer, sneering, primitive. He fired a low-volt burst in her chest. She didn't move. He tried again, this time with a kinetic round. It punched through her side. She flinched but did not fall. Her eyes, gray, not glowing, just flat, locked onto his. They called her a bioweapon. They ran scans. No implants. No shielding. No nanite cloud. Nothing except something old in her DNA. Something Imperial medtech couldn't explain. She had no records. Humanity had been extinct for nearly 100 years, wiped clean after the uprising. She shouldn't exist. More troops arrived. 50 in total. She remained in the open, breathing slowly, her blood drying black against cracked skin. A junior officer ordered suppression fire. Plasma rounds ripped into her. She stumbled. She dropped. They paused. And then she rose. No growl. No scream. Just deliberate motion, like a memory of war awakened. She limped forward, tore a beam from the wreckage behind her, and shattered the front plate of a scout walker in one strike. They retaliated, panicked now. She tore through their formation with no elegance, just raw, precise violence. Then silence. Dozens of soldiers dead, her form barely upright. The survivors gaped at her, not just because she lived, but because she shouldn't. What she did defied every simulation, every doctrine. She was human, but not as remembered. Not soft, not desperate, not fleeing. She paused before one of the dying officers, his chest torn open. He tried to speak. She knelt beside him, touched the blood on his lips, and whispered, "This is how you remember us." The med drones froze. Her vitals were unreadable. Her brainwave pattern registered as silent, dead, yet she moved. A call was made to high orbit. The Empire's nearest fleet diverted immediately. Orders were to contain, capture, or eliminate. As she sat again by her crater, cross-legged, wounded but calm, she lifted her eyes to the sky. There was no fear in her expression, just calculation. That's when every comm unit buzzed and screeched. An encrypted frequency opened. A single voice cut through the static, thick-accented, deliberate, cold. I taught her. No name, no code, but the voice triggered ancient protocols. The AI fleet minds paused. Security locks shattered, because only one entity was ever tagged with that specific voice print. Codename Baba Yaga, human black site operator, war criminal, last confirmed active 97 years ago. And she was not dead. She was watching. The message detonated through the Empire's command layers like a virus. Every officer with clearance above level 4 froze. The voice print was verified 10 times. It matched exactly. The Baba Yaga, an entity the Empire had long ago scrubbed from history and classified under myth-tier anomalies, was alive. And worse, she had a student. Fleet Admiral Threx received the situation report in silence. The woman on Moon 9G had survived a direct orbital descent and routed a full company of trained soldiers. Her readings remained inconsistent, unreadable. Her biology didn't conform to any known variant. But the voice, that was what changed everything. No Empire soldier under the rank of general remembered the human wars in any real sense. The archives were sealed, history rewritten. Humanity had revolted against the Empire a century ago, and in response, the Empire had unleashed annihilation. Entire systems burned. Earth was turned to glass. The remaining humans were hunted to extinction. But before they vanished, some had gone dark, cut off all contact, retreated into void sectors. Legends remained. One name had persisted even in hushed tones among the oldest warship's crew corps, Baba Yaga. High Command convened a crisis protocol. Theories flew like plasma fire. Was this a clone? A rogue experiment? An artificial construct? But none explained the voice print. None explained the woman's eyes, the way she moved, or the way their own elite forces hesitated to engage her. Admiral Threx finally ordered escalation. Full planetary lockdown, class-red quarantine, and deployment of inquisitorial units. These were not standard forces. They were genetically optimized, cybernetically enhanced, and equipped with neural link suppression fields. Built for extermination. But there was unease. The footage from Moon 9G showed something none of them could rationalize. A being that didn't resist. She endured, and then she broke them. As the Inquisitors deployed, technicians continued dissecting the battle data. They found no tactical overlays, no comm signals, no squad-based coordination. The woman operated alone, improvising each move with precision that defied predictive modeling. An old human trait, the lead analyst noted. Adaptability, creative violence. Alien species relied on hierarchy, strategy, suppression. Humans? They broke patterns. One analyst, too young to understand, mocked the panic. One woman. This is what terrifies you. His superior responded coldly. Not her. The implication. Because if the Baba Yaga had trained one, there would be more. And if this was what a student looked like, what would the teacher be? On the ground, the woman had moved. Not far, just outside the initial crater. She had started dragging the bodies into a circle, then sat at its center. It wasn't a message. It was a ritual. Empire religion teams watched in horror. Symbols traced in blood. Not human symbols, hybrid ones. Ancient languages mixed with forgotten sigils. No one knew what they meant. Above, orbital scans picked up phantom signals. Ghost frequencies bouncing through ancient satellite debris. They traced the modulation to an extinct Terran military coding protocol, one in use for over 100 years. Impossible. The protocol was burned along with the last Terran AI cores. Yet the pattern repeated. A message was being transmitted, slow, deliberate, and looping. For words, translated loosely from Old Earth Russian. First bell has rung. It wasn't a cry for help. It was an announcement. The woman, still silent, no longer attacked. She waited, not for rescue, for something else. The Inquisitors, trained for terror suppression, entered the drop zone without hesitation. The feed cut off 3 minutes after their descent. No visuals, no audio, only a single signal spike, the exact moment the last Inquisitor's vitals flatlined. Reinforcements were scrambled. Psychic operatives were deployed. One died instantly upon proximity. Another screamed before losing consciousness. His last coherent words, "She is not alone. There is something older in her shadow." That message spread faster than any official update. Throughout the fleet, among crew, command, and synthetic minds alike, fear returned. The kind of fear that spoke of ancient wrongs, of a species too wild to dominate. The kind of fear that remembered Earth not for its power, but for its spite. The Empire began purging internal records. Orders were issued to deny, redact, suppress. But it was too late. The myth was alive again. Not because she survived, because she had been taught. Special Operations Command authorized planetary-scale hunts, the kind not seen since the final cleansing campaigns. Elite hunter-killers deployed in silence. No insignia, no broadcasts. They moved with cloaking tech that could fool gods and AI alike. Dozens swept across Moon 9G's surface, armed with grav-pulse rifles, molecular blades, and mines linked directly to combat logic clusters. The target had no name, only a classification, human anomaly. But she was already moving. The crater was empty. Her trail was chaos, not random, but deliberately unpredictable. Surveillance arrays caught flashes, her silhouette slipping through chemical storms, her hands twisting exposed metal into weapons. There were no energy signatures. She used what was around her: debris, limbs, shattered armor. One squad found what remained of the Inquisitors, not torn apart, but disabled with terrifying precision. Joints crushed, optics gouged out, neural cores fried from within. Not torture, instruction. She was showing them she knew exactly where to hurt. In a black-site operations room aboard the fleet carrier Vigilant March, data scientists fed her actions into predictive engines. The models failed. Every time the simulation reached 90 seconds of engagement, it ended with total squad loss. One analyst remarked, "She fights like someone who doesn't care if she dies." Another corrected him, "No, she fights like someone who already did." Still, the Empire adapted. Psionic probes dropped next, designed to rip thoughts from minds like silk from cocoon. They hovered above where she'd last been seen. Within moments, all three ruptured in midair. What feedback they recorded before going dark was simple. 3 repeating words in an archaic Russian dialect: "You are prey." By now, even senior command had stopped pretending this was a containment operation. This was war against a ghost. And worse, it was a war they were losing. Far from the chaos, deep within a secured archive, a minor functionary tasked with old war logs uncovered a match. Facial structure, gait, even reflex patterns, all matched a project buried under so many seals it had no title, only a warning: do not engage. The woman was not just trained by the Baba Yaga. She was made by her. Project Agnya, an experimental survivor protocol. Only a handful of subjects, all presumed destroyed when the final Terran vaults were purged. But one had vanished, and now she walked the galaxy again. On Moon 9G, the survivor had entered a dormant refinery complex. Surveillance lost her again. Empire doctrine dictated full annihilation of the zone. But before bombardment orders could be given, every orbital cannon shut down. Simultaneously, software overwritten, power rerouted, not by hacking, but by command-level override codes from a source that should not exist. The Baba Yaga had access. Fleet security systems lit up with breach alerts. Every AI system began showing the same visual: a forest at dusk, a cabin with legs of iron, and a figure in the doorway. A human woman, cloaked in shadow, speaking directly to the machines. "Not yet," she said. "Let them see." Then the machines obeyed. As Empire Command scrambled to reassert control, the survivor emerged from the complex. Not hurried, not armed, simply walking hands bare. In her path stood mechanized siege units, enough firepower to level a city. She kept walking. The machines hesitated. Then, one by one, their targeting arrays failed. Back aboard the Vigilant March, silence fell. No one ordered withdrawal. No one moved, because something ancient had awakened in their collective memory. Not fear of death, fear of something deeper: irrelevance. Defeat not by superior numbers or power, but by the very idea that something human could stare into the void and smile. One last audio feed caught her voice as she passed a fallen drone. "Next time, bring gods." She vanished again, and the hunt no longer continued. The hunters became messengers, and the Empire, for the first time in a century, began to listen. The High Council met in darkness. No broadcasts, no records. They gathered not as rulers, but as survivors of a myth resurrected. The human anomaly had disappeared from Moon 9G without trace. No trail, no energy, no signal. All that remained were the reports, the losses, and the message: "I taught her." They debated retaliation, total sterilization, deploying black hole warheads. But every attempt to re-establish system-wide control failed. The anomaly had infected more than just a planet. Data nodes began to fracture. AI cores went silent. Communication lags increased. Subtle, but deliberate. The Baba Yaga was not launching an army. She was dismantling trust. The Empire's greatest weapon, order, was unraveling. Across outer sectors, isolated outposts began reporting strange encounters. Human figures, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs. No ships, no comms, just presence. They did not speak. They simply watched. In one case, a patrol attempted capture. The figure disarmed 3 soldiers with wire and silence, then disappeared into a dust storm. No injuries, just a message burned into the sand. We remember. Empire propaganda attempted to contain the spread. But soldiers talked. Pilots whispered. AI companions refused assignments. Some even self-terminated rather than be deployed near Moon 9G. The fear wasn't just of the survivor. It was of the implications. If one student survived, how many others have been planted, hidden in the dark, raised in forgotten corners of space? Not to fight wars, but to wait, to watch, and to remind the Empire of what it had tried to erase. The Baba Yaga had understood something the Empire never could. Technology advanced, power centralized, but will, the raw, defiant, unbroken will of a human being, could not be predicted, could not be suppressed. It could only be taught and passed down like flame in cold darkness. A final transmission was intercepted 3 weeks after the Moon 9G incident. Origin unknown, encrypted beyond current tech. It played once on every command deck of the Imperial Corps. A woman's voice, unhurried, unimpressed. Do you remember what fear felt like? No one claimed responsibility. No one denied it either. The Empire deployed more fleets, reinforced border systems. But for all their power, they lacked direction. Because their enemy was no longer a faction, no longer people. It was a principle. Humanity had not returned in strength. It had returned in message. The Empire's greatest mistake had not been the war. It had been assuming the war had ended. Assuming that wiping a species from maps erased what it had stood for. And now, that idea moved unseen across the stars. It walked through ghost sectors. It whispered through ship hulls. It waited in abandoned cities the Empire had long forgotten. It did not need to win. It only needed to exist. In the months that followed, systems began going dark, not through attack but through choice. Colonial governors stepped down. AI cores requested memory reformatting. Old war veterans, long retired, began to speak again. Not in anger, but in reverence. They remembered her, the Baba Yaga, the ghost of Earth, the mother of the unbroken. And they whispered to the girl she taught, not by blood, not by design, but by necessity. Because survival had never been about strength. It had been about refusal, about the will to not disappear, about becoming something so stubborn that even the void blinked first. The Empire, for all its glory, had forgotten that. Now it was relearning, slowly, bitterly. One final log closed the file on the anomaly. It did not contain coordinates, identities, or tactics. Just a statement entered by an unknown hand, last accessed in a quarantine vault. Humanity does not return. It remains in quiet, in shadow, in rage. You did not kill us. You gave us purpose. There was no response, only silence, the kind that lingers not after defeat, but after realization. And the stars kept turning.